What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best gaming related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. I want to talk about Manhunt, guys. This is a title that we've wondered if Rockstar was ever going to make a continuation of some sorts or another at some point in the future. And with that being said, guys, I want to talk about it here in this segment of the show. Where is Manhunt 3? And is this a title that we could be seeing at some point or another in the future? So let's get into it. So, guys, in an article coming to us from Ricky Fresh of Screen Rant, Manhunt is one of the many series that Rockstar has left behind. The game's controversy and headaches are just too much for the company to ever revisit. So let's talk about that, guys. The original Manhunt was released to generally favorable critical reviews and tons of controversy. The sequel followed that up a few years later with worse reception, but even more controversy. Before the game was even able to launch, Rockstar Games had to make several changes to lower the game's ESRB rating from adults only to mature. Since then, Rockstar has seemingly changed directions and has yet to really make any noise about a potential Manhunt 3. So, first and foremost, guys, Rockstar Games obviously is working, I would say preferably they're working on games like, Red Dead Redemption 3 potentially. GTA 6 probably is the most up-and-coming game we are anticipating and expecting. But then we're talking, other games out there in this universe of the Rockstar games. You think of Bully 2. A lot of people want a Bully 2, but then that's been, rumored to be canceled a number of times. You've got Max Payne 4 as a significant possibility, I think, at some point or another. And then like an LA Noire 2. Manhunt is one of those titles that it's been riddled with controversy, and there's obviously Rockstar Games is one of those companies that does not run away or shy away from controversy. It actually gets a lot of buzz around their titles, and I think that they like that. They like that they get people talking about their games, whether it's GTA, Bully, or even something like Manhunt. But that leads us to the question, could we ever see a Manhunt 3? Because maybe they feel that they've got enough controversy with games like GTA and, games like Bully that, hey, we don't really need to go down that route of Manhunt 3. It's going to be something very interesting to talk about in the foreseeable future. On top of that, the second Manhunt game wasn't very good. The first game was far from the game changer other Rockstar titles like Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption have been, but the sequel only regressed. By introducing guns, it stripped away a lot of what made the original game so captivating. No longer were players sneaking their way through areas filled with enemies that wanted to murder them. Now they could more easily fight back, taking away that tension. The sequel story also took a major step back and presented a troublesome look at mental illness that hasn't aged well and certainly wouldn't work today. And this is something, guys, that I felt wasn't going to work with Bully 2. There were things that worked in the original Bully, but there was certainly, just the name alone, right? Would that work in today's gaming landscape and the culture that we have now in society? I feel like it wouldn't fare very well. And even though I think it would do good from a sales perspective, Manhunt may even do even worse in that area, just based on the recent history of the Manhunt series at this point. I feel like there's a number of reasons why they should stay away from a Manhunt 3, even though I feel like if they toned it down somewhat, it could actually be it had some really interesting concepts. I think like if they didn't go so heavy on some of the things that they were pushing, I think it would be actually a pretty interesting and exciting title. It's just the fact that what they did with the first two games was so much controversy, so many different things, like even when it comes to when we start involving mental illness and things of that nature, I think we're starting, when you start thinking about breaking barriers and such, I think Rockstar may have been doing that. And I think that what needs to happen if a Manhunt 3 ever does happen, it needs to be toned down without question. Now, you could say that's going to, really go away from what Manhunt was all about. But let's be honest, Manhunt as a story, as a series at this point, is not on the same echelon as that of Red Dead or GTA. So, hey, maybe if you take a little bit of a different approach with a Manhunt 3 or a Manhunt reboot, very well, could it become something that's as popular as those other franchises? I think it could, if they just kind of go in a little bit of a different direction. There's nothing wrong with controversies, guys. There's nothing wrong with them doing that and choosing to do those things in these games. But there comes a point where you can't cross that fine line to certain things that are going to be acceptable here in current society. With that being said, why hasn't Rockstar revisited Manhunt? Well, even if the two games were both successful and only generated Grand Theft Auto levels of controversy, it's hard to imagine Rockstar taking another stab at Manhunt. The company has, over the last few years, moved from linear games to live service titles. Grand Theft Auto Online took the world by storm when it launched, and Rockstar is slowly trying to do the same with Red Dead Online. While they may eventually release Grand Theft Auto 6, it seems unlikely that they'll look to any property that they can't build a community around. And I got to agree with that, guys, to a good degree, to say the least. Now, this combination of factors makes it tough to imagine that Rockstar will revisit Manhunt in any capacity. Rockstar could probably find a way to make a great reimagining if it tried, but the potential headaches and difficulty in further monetization avenues mean that players are unlikely to ever find out. And look, a lot of this, I feel, they could change, right, with Manhunt. Sure, obviously, they've kind of shied away from doing things that they used to do in the past, and now they're really doing, obviously, GTA Online, Red Dead Online. Who knows? Could they be doing a Max Payne Online? And then, could they do a Manhunt Online? I absolutely think they could. And sure, I think that having a story, having a full package is something that what Rockstar is doing really well now. That being having co-op modes, multiplayer modes, as well as a full-blown single-player story. And I think you could do that here with Manhunt. I just think that you would have to tone it down, guys. I think at the end of the day, though, Rockstar is not one to shy away from controversies, from shy away from things that may be edgy content, to say the least. But I think, guys, that they thrive in that environment because that's what gets so much buzz and talk about their title and our titles in general. And it gets people to actually buy the game and try it out for themselves. It's going to be interesting, to say the least, guys, what happens here moving forward with Manhunt. I think at the end of the day, though, it really comes down to the community. Us voicing our opinion to the developers, to the publishers, Rockstar as a whole, saying, hey, we want Manhunt 3 made, or hey, we don't want this made. I think a lot of that is it's going to come down to, because I think that you can never say never when it comes to Rockstar and really any, gaming, development team out there. They very well may, if they have enough people voicing their opinion that they want something made, they very well may actually make it at some point. And if we say, hey, we want Manhunt 3, but how about we tone it down just a little bit so it's going to be more acceptable to people across the world, and maybe, sure, it can always have things about it that are going to be talked about, kind of like GTA, but you don't have to go to those far extremes. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, though. Do you think we'll ever get a, Manhunt 3 at some point or another in the future? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more Manhunt 3 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Lawbreakers was a title that was created by Boss Key Productions, guys. And this was a studio that was created by Cliff Bleszinski, of course, very well known in the Gears of War franchise. And he started his own thing with Boss Key Studios, creating Lawbreakers, which had some really interesting concepts around it. And I thought was a really cool first entry for this company as a whole. But obviously we know, guys, that this is a title that failed and failed miserably. And so I want to talk about, what happened here to Lawbreakers. Could we ever see a return to this franchise in the form of Lawbreakers 2? And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts about this in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So guys, in an article that's going to be coming to us from Andy Chalk of PC Gamer, the Boss Key Studios co-founder shared some new thoughts about the fate of his recent games in a recent Instagram post. So it's a sad reality of the video game business that sometimes, for a variety of reasons, good games fail. Games like, say, Lawbreakers. Evan liked it an awful lot, calling it a complex, physical, and deep competitive shooter in his 84 out of 100 review. But it nonetheless tanked badly. Its emergency pivot battle royale follow-up Radical Heights held early promise, but it was a rush job and it showed. Ever since the studio closed, I've been racking my brain what I could have done differently. Pivot hard when the juggernaut of Overwatch was announced. Been less nice with my design ideas and more of a dictator with them, he wrote. One big epiphany I had was that I pushed my own personal political beliefs in a world that was increasingly divided. And I think that's huge, guys. One thing in this Instagram post, I think that Cliff Bleszinski kind of, at least I took away from it, was that he kind of owned it. He owned that he made himself a lot of mistakes. A lot of times, guys, Cliff Bleszinski in a number of ways he's been a controversial figure at times. And I think here we're talking, this is a guy who's coming out saying, look, I could have done things better and things of that nature. And I think that's totally, totally true in a number of ways. So instead of the story being this game looks neat, it became this is the game with the woke bro trying to push his hacky politics on us with gender neutral bathrooms. Instead of these characters seem fun, it was this is the studio with the CEO who refuses to make his female character sexier. Instead of who am I going to choose, it became white dude, shoehorns, diversity in his game, and then smells his own smug farts in interviews instead of just letting the product speak for itself. And I totally agree with this, guys. I feel like he is speaking facts here. Now, I'm not sure what to make of this. Looking at the Lawbreakers wiki, the game seemed to have a relatively well-rounded cast, 9 men, 7 women, 2 androids, various ethnicities, but I don't recall it ever being presented as an overtly political or woke game, and that's certainly not a rep that Bleszinski himself brought to the conversation. Former Boss Key art director Tremel Isaac said in a 2016 interview with A-List Daily that Bleszinski had intentionally set out to build a diverse game and develop a diverse workforce at the studio, which is laudable, but games like Overwatch, Apex Legends, and Rainbow Six Siege all feature comparably diverse casts, and it doesn't appear to have cost them any. The Boss Key experience was rough enough to make Bleszinski swear off making video games forever, although he more recently acknowledged that forever is an awfully long time and he might be interested in giving it another go. Maybe that's why he's talking about Boss Key once again. So, Bleszinski, guys, has updated his post to emphasize that his political learnings were a factor in the failure of Lawbreakers and Boss Key, not the factor. So, and I agree. I don't think that you can really pin it on one thing or another in particular, guys. I think it was a number of things that went wrong with Lawbreakers and even Radical Heights, guys. I think there were some interesting concepts once again, but part of me felt that they were kind of chasing that bandwagon, or kind of chasing what was clout or what was, popping at that time, being like Battle Royale. I feel like that if they would have taken Lawbreakers and say they would have done what the studio over at like No Man's Sky did, or what, Ubisoft did with Rainbow Six Siege, even though those had terrible launches, over time they kept supporting it, did what the community wanted them to do. And over time, guys, look at those games now. It's unbelievable what they've built over with No Man's Sky as well as with Rainbow Six Siege. I mean, it's incredible that those games had such huge comebacks, and Lawbreakers had a better launch, typically speaking, even though it didn't sell super well. I feel like they could have taken that community that they had, the very first title, and instead of working on Radical Heights right away and kind of chasing that Battle Royale train, they could have stuck with Lawbreakers and build something really special over time with the community they had, and maybe brought it to consoles and things of that nature to really expand upon that legacy and all of that they were trying to do there. I just feel like it was too rushed, and then they end up jumping off ship, almost like right before or right after it basically launched, it felt like. So to me, guys, I think there were a number of things that went wrong. I'm really hoping at some point or another, if Cliff Bleszinski does come back, I feel like he should give Lawbreakers another go around or another chance at doing maybe a reboot of it of some sort, or a Lawbreakers 2. Let me know though, guys, what do you think happened here with Lawbreakers? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Lawbreakers content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Freedom Fighters is a title, guys, that I played, it feels like so long ago. This title came out, guys, and I was a little bit skeptical about it when it first released, and I thought to myself, I'm going to give this game a try, and let's see what it's all about, and really, guys, this was a title that, from a reception perspective to a following, really, that was built from this title, it started to build momentum, and a lot of people were wanting to see, are we going to get a Freedom Fighters 2? And so what I want to talk about in this segment of the show, guys, as more information and as more rumbling speculation has come out, I want to talk about Freedom Fighters 2 and everything that we know about this title at this point in time. So let's get into it. So, guys, coming to us from the official Freedom Fighters Wikipedia page, on April 6, 2004, Eidos UK revealed plans for the sequel of none other than Freedom Fighters. Eidos announced it would distribute the sequel in the latter part of 2005. However, IO Interactive announced development of a new game, Kane and Lynch Deadman, casting the future of a Freedom Fighter sequel in doubt. In 2010, when asked about a potential sequel, Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days director Karsten Lund refused to comment. In 2011, IO Interactive's official Twitter account tweeted that Freedom Fighters 2 is definitely something a lot of us are interested in doing. In 2017, IO Interactive split from Square Enix and took with them the rights to Freedom Fighter since it was published before the Eidos buyout. So, first of all, guys, that tells us, that we haven't really had a lot of updates as of more recently. The last thing that we saw was really back, if we go back all the way to 2017, and we're in 2022 now. So where does that lead us? Well, first of all, guys, I think a big thing that we have to mention here is what the critical reception, or I should say the reception was of the title, because according to Metacritic, guys, it got an 81 out of 100 on PS2, this being the original Freedom Fighters. On Xbox, it got 82 out of 100, and on PC, an 80 out of 100. That's pretty good. When we look at IGN and their review of it, they gave it an 8.4 out of 10. That's pretty great. GameSpot, a 9.3 out of 10. That's pretty great. So overall, guys, when we look at just the overall trajectory of the reception of this title, I think that, it definitely was moving in a positive direction. In an article, guys, coming to us from Rob Dolan of Game Rant, finally being re-released after years of silence, the return of Freedom Fighters could be a huge deal for fans in IO Interactive's cult classic. Back before Homefront and Homefront Revolution, there was another alternate history-themed video game that flew under the radar, developed by the same team that was responsible for Hitman's rise to fame. IO Interactive also developed a third-person shooter known as Freedom Fighters. While it was generally well-received at the time, the game ended up becoming a cult classic among all the fans who originally played the game. Now, in its most recent re-release, Freedom Fighters has a chance to show why it was so beloved back in 2003. So back when development began on Freedom Fighters, it was a very different game. Initially, the game was unveiled as Freedom, the Battle for Liberty Island, and was meant to have hybrid action combat split between a turn-based strategic mode and a third-person shooter mode. Presumably, because of Hitman and Hitman 2's massive popularity, at some point that turn-based mode was implemented directly into the shooter gameplay instead with the game squad system. This system was one of the many ways that Freedom Fighters was incredibly unique at the time. So, in a lot of ways, Freedom Fighters ended up being very indirectly formative for sandbox and open world games. Freedom Fighters did some interesting things with the game's systemic world, as each region of New York was divided into certain districts that involved a lot of purposeful backtracking. There would be anywhere between 2 to 4 zones in a region, but each contained a pivotal part of the Russian army strength. Various regions would be guarded by different forms of the Russian military strength, like helicopters that patrolled and guarded major strongholds, or troop convoys that would respawn enemies in cleared areas. So, look, guys, I really think that this was a title in a number of ways that had some really interesting concepts and definitely should be coexisting still in the gaming landscape as a long-withstanding franchise, guys. They really did and had some really cool concepts. And I even feel even Homefront and such, guys, even though those games didn't have as good of a reception as Freedom Fighters, I still thought that was a title that should be something that was continued in some form or another. I think Freedom Fighters is a perfect opportunity to do a soft reboot or even do like some remakes and such in the future. So Freedom Fighters also employed a ton of other smaller world building elements that made the adventure much more immersive. After every mission, players returned to the game's hub world in the New York sewer system. With each liberated region of New York, the rebel base in the sewers grew bigger as more tents and supplies were erected in the base. While the base building was never as systemic and widespread as something like Metal Gear Solid 5's expansive systems, it still accomplished the same level of immersion, both visually and functionally. This progression emphasized the player's revolution was growing stronger. So for most fans jumping back into the re-release, many are hoping the success of this launch on PC could lead to a reinvigoration of the franchise. Even though Hitman's reboot has done remarkably well for IO Interactive, fans of Freedom Fighters have been asking about the status of the franchise for years and whether a remake, remaster, or sequel was coming. IO's always been vocally proud of the Freedom Fighters series, even though a planned sequel in 2005 was eventually canceled. Many are hoping the success of this re-release could potentially spur on a sequel in the series 17 years after the original game's release date. So obviously, guys, Freedom Fighters now is available on PC, which is absolutely huge to say the least. Now, where does this leave us moving forward with Freedom Fighters 2? I do believe, guys, this is a massive step in the right direction. That being, them releasing it on PC is huge. And obviously, guys, the sequel was canceled in 2005, and we've got all these years later, but this is really where it comes down to you guys. You guys who are like this series, like this franchise, us voicing our opinion to the developers, saying, to IO Interactive, hey, we want this game made. Our voice, guys, can actually really greenlight a sequel to Freedom Fighters. And I think that our actions as well, downloading, purchasing, whatever it may be, Freedom Fighters on PC is huge, guys, because that's going to show the developers that, hey, there is still a big following here for Freedom Fighters moving forward, and we want to go ahead and we're going to greenlight a sequel. Even though Hitman is awesome, guys, and they've done an incredible job with that franchise, Freedom Fighters could be something really special that they continue to move forward in the future. But let me know, guys, where do you think we are with Freedom Fighters 2 at this point in time? We know very little at this point, but what we do know is that Freedom Fighters being released on PC, and obviously this can build momentum moving forward for the franchise as a whole, guys. It could be something absolutely huge. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more Freedom Fighters 2 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. So FaZe Banks is one of the biggest icons in gaming at this point in time, guys. An absolute legend, to say the least, guys. One of the owners, of course, of FaZe Clan, and he has really helped build FaZe Clan and transcend that team to the next level. And he's got his fingerprints all over it, and there's really no question about it at this point in time. But I want to talk, guys, about Banks from the perspective of his YouTube content creation, because he is an incredible content creator. He's a great owner. Everything that he really touches, guys, has been absolutely awesome. And I think that really YouTube is something that he's really, really good at. And it's something that he has not continued for a while now. And so obviously we know that, and we've heard from him, whether it's on Twitter or even on YouTube from FaZe Clan's, official channel, which, obviously with the Phase 1 recruitment challenge and a number of different things going on, he's definitely got his fingerprints all over that as well. That being said, though, is he going to return to YouTube and his personal YouTube channel here in 2022? Let's talk about it. So, guys, if we go to his, official YouTube channel, the last time that he uploaded was over 2 years ago in his video titled Dear Tfue. And guys, that was his latest video. So the question has really come out, like, where is he from the perspective of creating content on his personal YouTube channel? We know that he does Mom's Basement with Keemstar, which is a fantastic podcast. But where is this guy at this point in time from, his personal content creation? And I think, guys, really what it comes down to is there's a number of things here. His ex-girlfriend, obviously, they split. Tfue, obviously, that was a huge deal, him splitting, and like Tfue and him and the drama that surrounded all of that. I really feel, guys, that actually really got to Banks in a pretty major way. That Dear Tfue video, you could just tell that it hit him hard. And I think that at the end of the day, when we look at Banks and what he's built up to this point, and he was, he was uploading pretty consistently to say the least. I think that when we look at that video and just the amount of just almost anxiety that he almost had when that whole situation happened with Tfue, I feel that it really, it did something to him where it was like, you know what, I'm going to take a break from YouTube for a while, like from his own personal content. And obviously, guys, he's taken a long break from it. And do I think he'll ever return? I absolutely do. Is it going to be in 2022? I think, guys, that it really comes down to, is he in the right headspace? Because I think I would love to see Banks come back, but I want to see him come back in a major way. I want to see him come back where it's like he's uploading consistently like once a week or something, not just one video and then we don't hear from his YouTube channel for 2 years or something again. I would rather him obviously just take his time, upload when he's ready to, and then when he does, get back into a groove. One video a week, couple videos a week. I think that would be really awesome because he was doing like new videos every single Sunday for a period of time. It didn't last incredibly long, but the idea is I would love to see him get on a schedule where we can expect more Banks content. I think he's one of the best YouTubers in the entire gaming community, and it's not even close. I think he's awesome. He's amassed over 5 million subscribers, guys, and that is incredible. So I would love to see him, once he gets in the proper headspace to start creating content again, he'll know when it's time. Obviously, guys, it's his YouTube channel. Could it be in 2022? I absolutely think it could. I mean, he looks to be in pretty good spirits when we listen to him from the Phase 1 recruitment challenge, like how to join Phase. And then when we saw him, obviously, in the Phase 1 teaser trailer and such, I think that he definitely got his fingerprints all over the things that are going on with Phase. I just think we have to give him maybe even more time for him to really start coming back to YouTube. And I'm sure he's going to have some pretty awesome plans whenever that happens. But let me know, guys. What do you think? Do you think that we're going to be hearing from FaZe Banks here in 2022 on his personal YouTube channel? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more FaZe Clan content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. We've been waiting for a while, guys, for Bioshock 4 and more information to come out about this up-and-coming title, and I want to talk in this segment of the show about Bioshock 4, and are we going to be getting an announcement here in 2022? Let's get into it. So guys, in an article coming to us from Vic Hood over at Tech Radar, what can we expect from Bioshock 4? Well, Bioshock 4 is the unofficial title for the new Bioshock game that's been officially confirmed by games publisher 2K Games as being in development by new team Cloud Chamber Studios. So although official details are scarce, we're hoping we'll soon learn more about when the game might arrive and what we can expect from the next installment in the Bioshock franchise. In the meantime, we've collected together all the news and rumors about Bioshock 4, as well as what we'd like to see to separate it from the origins of Rapture and Columbia. So, first of all, guys, obviously this is the fourth entry in the 2K Games retro futuristic game series. We do not know, obviously, when it's going to be coming out. We do think it's going to be coming out on next-gen consoles, obviously. Probably PS5, Xbox Series X, PC, Xbox Series S, and could it be coming to the old-gen consoles? It really depends on when we get an announcement, guys. So, obviously, while we're certainly excited for the next Bioshock game, we don't actually know when we'll get our hands on it. In a tweet officially announcing a new Bioshock is in the works in 2019, publisher 2K Games stated that work has begun on the next iteration of the Bioshock franchise, but that the game will be in development for the next several years. There was a suggestion in a recent report from journalist Colin Moriarty that the game is targeting a 2022 release, which interestingly lines up with a slightly dubious NVIDIA GeForce Now leak from September 2021. However, we don't have an official confirmation just yet. So, okay, first of all, let's talk about 2022 being the release. I think that it's very unrealistic that we would be getting a release of this game in 2022. However, I do think that there's a very good possibility we could get our very first teaser of Bioshock 4 this year in 2022, which is what gets back to the title of this segment of the show being an announcement in 2022 for Bioshock 4. I do think that is very, very possible. So a recent leak might have just revealed the planned setting for Bioshock 4 courtesy of a Sacred Symbols video. According to journalist Colin Moriarty, Bioshock 4 will take players to a fictional city in the Antarctic in the 1960s. This is a setting which both VGC and Eurogamer have corroborated, citing anonymous sources. Setting the game in the 1960s would bring it in line with the timeline of Bioshock 1 and 2, which take place in the underwater city of Rapture. Moriarty went on to say that the new city setting could be called Borealis, and that the game will narratively connect to previous entries in the series. So Moriarty said that the game is apparently targeting a 2022 release, but of course, this report remains a rumor until anything is confirmed by the game's publisher or developer. If the game really is targeting a 2022 release, however, it shouldn't be too much longer until we start hearing some more official details. I 100% agree with that. I don't believe Bioshock is going to get a release, guys, here in 2022. Let me just be very clear when I say that. I don't believe that. I would be absolutely shocked if they decided to do it in 2022. Now, an announcement, absolutely. Could they even give us an announcement in a release date or a release date year? Absolutely. So, obviously, guys, there was this leak that came out from NVIDIA GeForce that was there was a major leak from the NVIDIA GeForce Now game streaming service database in September 2021 and included a listing for Bioshock 2022, which could be related to the Bioshock game announced in 2019, known for now as Bioshock 4. Now, since the leak took place, 343 Industries has stepped forward to say that a listing for Halo 5 on PC was incorrect and the game will not come to the platform, which is as good a sign as any that many of the games that appeared on the list should be taken with a pinch of salt. And I agree with this, guys. I definitely think that any leaks and things of that nature, you got to take it with a pinch of salt. I mean, certainly if it's a source that's been known to be correct about leaks and information, then that's different. But I really feel like with any leak or speculation coming out, it's got to be taken with a pinch of salt in a major, major way. Now, a recent job listing at Cloud Chamber Games, developers of Bioshock 4 suggest the team could be developing the game using Epic's Unreal Engine 5. In the ad for a senior gameplay programmer, it states that the candidate will work within Unreal Engine 5, adapting existing systems and building new technology in order to fulfill the project's technical needs and creative goals. So there was also talk, guys, that obviously this could be a PS5 exclusive, which I think is very unlikely, but there's a rumor going around that Sony could be pursuing Bioshock 4 as a PS5 exclusive in some capacity, whether outright or timed. And I have a hard time believing this, but I do think Sony is trying. I don't know if they're going to get that exclusivity to this title. That would be very huge, though, for Sony, especially seeing as how Xbox is just taking leaps and bounds. Huge moves where PlayStation has been very complacent over the course of time, guys. Xbox is no longer the little brother anymore. Now, obviously, guys, in yet another piece of juicy gossip supplied by a new round of job listings, it appears that Cloud Chamber will be taking Bioshock in a different direction this time out, with the developer actively searching for someone who can weave impactful, character-driven stories in an open-world setting. Open world would be something really special, guys, to say the least. When you're short of formal announcements about a game, sometimes there are things to be gleaned from its job listings. That's proven to be the case with Bioshock 4, as some Cloud Chamber Games job listings spotted by Twitter user MaroNL suggest that the game won't be set in Rapture or Columbia, the settings for previous games in the series. Now, my personal thoughts on this, guys, I just, should it be in Rapture or Columbia? I would be totally okay with them going somewhere else, but I'll give you an example of something that concerns me here with this is when we look at a game like Halo, okay, and 343, obviously the torch was passed from Bungie to 343 Industries. 343 has their, first real go around with the title with Halo 5, and obviously, there were a bunch of issues, okay? They obviously went away from the kind of what made Halo so special in the first place, which was Master Chief, right? And they kind of went away from that to an extent, almost made Master Chief seem as a villain. And so they went against it, and it did not work out whatsoever for 343. Now, they were able to kind of get things turned around. For me, at least, I would like to see Bioshock 4, since we obviously no longer have Irrational. We obviously have Cloud Chamber Games working on this title. I think that it's very important that Cloud Chamber is within that universe from the perspective of either Rapture or Columbia. And sure, they can branch out near the end of the story to other places or like a new place altogether. But if they try something too drastically new and different from those original titles, I don't think it's going to land well with the fan base as a whole. I could be wrong, but I kind of compare that to Halo because I just would like them to stay grounded in what's been built so far. And then as you go, this is the first go around with Cloud Chamber with this title. So maybe in Bioshock 5, you move into that direction. But I just feel like you got to stay within this universe of what's been built so far. Probably, preferably Columbia, so that you have that option really to kind of go into the multitude of different universes that they were trying to build with Bioshock Infinite. Now, Take-Two Interactive recently published a financial report which makes mention of Bioshock 4. A very small mention, but a mention nonetheless. According to this report, it'll be quite a while before we see Bioshock 4 as it will be in development for the next several years. This is pretty much as expected, although it was reported that the game has been in the works for years. It was also noted that its development has been rebooted in that time, so it's unsurprising that it's going to be a few more years before we get to play it. Nonetheless, it's always good to manage expectations. So, obviously, guys, publisher 2K Games took to Twitter in late 2019 to announce a new installment in the best-selling video game franchise. And what they said was, today 2K announced the founding of Cloud Chamber, its newest development studio. This team of storytellers has begun work on the next iteration of the acclaimed Bioshock franchise, will be in development for the next several years. And that's absolutely awesome, guys. Look, the first substantial rumors about a new Bioshock game emerged in April of 2019 in an article that the current goings on at Mafia 3 development studio Hangar 13. Kotaku reported that there's a studio located right next door, and the team within is working on the early stages of the next Bioshock game, codenamed Parkside. We now know a new Bioshock is definitely in the works. So, look, at the end of the day, guys, here's what I think. I think we're going to be getting a Bioshock 4, right? I mean, obviously, if we're in a limbo state or a development hell cycle, I really hope that's not happening right now over at Cloud Chamber Games. But I do think we're going to begin this title at some point or another in the foreseeable future. When it's going to come out, I think we're going to get an announcement here in 2022, and the game will probably release in like 2024 or 2025, depending on how far they are in development. But that being said, guys, what do you think? Do you think we're going to get an announcement this year, next year? I mean, when do you think we're going to be hearing more about Bioshock 4? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Bioshock 4 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. The Last Guardian was critically acclaimed, guys, and so many people say that it's one of the most influential games. Some say that it's one of the greatest games ever made. And I want to talk, guys, in this segment of the show about The Last Guardian 2. Is this a game that we could ever see in the future? What's everything that we know about this title at this point in time? Because we know that the studio that made The Last Guardian is teasing its next game. So let's talk about it. So guys, in an article coming to us from William Travis Miracle II from Game Rant, the studio behind 2016 The Last Guardian teases its next project in a New Year's greeting filled with visuals from its most iconic games. So, Gen Design, the studio involved in the development of 2016's The Last Guardian, is possibly working on a new game. The studio released a greeting card to celebrate the start of 2021 filled with images from some of its most well-known games, The Last Guardian included, but one image doesn't reflect games of the past. And so the implications of the images on the 2021 greeting card are pointed out by Twitter user Nibel. From left to right, the Gen Design provides glimpses from its iconic games such as Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian. Each letter of 2021 is given a corresponding image, but the last image is an unfamiliar one. So the final image is exciting but vague. A quick glance suggests it could be a sequel to any of Gen Design's previous works, as the protagonists of Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian are young and dark-haired. However, most fans of Gen Design's games would consider Shadow of the Colossus a spiritual sequel to Ico, thus making it more likely that the new game is potentially The Last Guardian 2. The situation becomes even more complicated considering director Fumito Ueda's statements years ago about his next game, saying it would be very different from his previous projects. So, okay, unfortunately, there's little more to work with as Gen Design hasn't made statements concerning the New Year's greeting, but plenty of possibilities remain. And fans of the company's work will be quick to dissect any information concerning a new game. Those looking to enjoy the best The Last Guardian experience available right now can play it at 60 frames per second via backwards compatibility on the new PS5, though digital copies reportedly only run at 30 FPS. Still, Gen Design, a series of games reflects some of the best stories about the bonds of friendship gaming has to offer, and any of them is worth a replay for those inspired by the news about the new game. So, okay, obviously, guys, this image that came out, and this came out back in 2021, but, as we're looking forward, and that's what we do on the YouTube channel, we look at the future of gaming, guys, as a whole, like from different games that we love, to games that we don't talk about as much on the YouTube channel, but The Last Guardian is one, guys, that being a cult classic needs to be talked about here. Could this be a Last Guardian 2, just teaser, essentially, that, obviously Gen Design released? And I think it absolutely could be, that being Last, Guardian 2. Could it be Shadow of the Colossus 2? Could it be Ico 2? I mean, what could it really be? I mean, it could be any of those, or it could be completely new IP. However, The Last Guardian would make a lot of sense to me. Now, on the flip side of that, maybe it would just be a completely new IP, because that seems to be what Gen Design does and does very well. None of these games are sequels. They may be in the same universe, or a lot of people believe that they're in the same universe, even though Gen Design doesn't come out and say that. Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, The Last Guardian, a lot of people say that those are all within the same universe. So could this next one be in that same universe, but not called The Last Guardian? It absolutely could be possible that being the case. But I think, guys, even though we don't know a lot at this very juncture in time about the next title from Gen Design, I think that there's a very good chance that it could be Shadow of the Colossus 2, The Last Guardian 2, even an Ico 2. It could very well be, if it's not a direct sequel, in that same universe. Let me know, though, guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more The Last Guardian 2 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Many of us are hoping for a continuation of the Half-Life franchise, and a lot of people are talking about the code name that's coming to what people are believing to be Half-Life 3 in the form of Citadel. And I want to talk about Citadel, guys, and everything that we know so far about this up-and-coming title, hopefully in the Half-Life universe, even though we got a most recent title in that universe being Half-Life Alyx, which was incredible, but not everyone was able to enjoy this because not everyone has a VR headset, and so hopefully Citadel is a true, bring back or true comeback to form for the Half-Life universe. So let's get into it. So guys, in an article coming to us from Jared Moore of IGN, Valve is reportedly working on a Half-Life shooter strategy game tailored for Steam Deck. Obviously, guys, Valve is reportedly working on an upcoming Half-Life shooter strategy game codenamed Citadel that will be tailored for play on the Steam Deck. Now, according to McVicker, who of course is a YouTuber, guys, who obviously tracks all of Valve's titles, Citadel will have a style akin to what you might expect if Left 4 Dead, Alien Swarm, and RTS and Half-Life were all having a baby. While the project is yet to be officially announced by Valve, McVicker says that the game is being designed with the Steam Deck in mind due to how the game is supposed to be controlled. So while McVicker states that the game is reported to best showcase what the Steam Deck is capable of, he also estimates that a potential timeline for the game could be sometime within the next year and a half or to 2 years. According to an article by PC Games, McVicker confirmed that he had received the information shown in the video through data mines of regularly updated Valve software, as well as his own research into Citadel, which he has been carrying out since 2018. Valve's last entry into the Half-Life series came obviously with the 2020 release of Half-Life Alyx, a game that successfully allowed players to head back and fully immerse themselves in the Half-Life universe through its VR-based gameplay. Upon release, IGN reviewed Half-Life Alyx, awarding it a 10 out of 10 and stating that it had set a new bar for VR in interactivity, detail, and level design. Mick Vicker himself says that the small team is still working on an idea for Half-Life 3, but that the bulk of Valve is focused on Steam Deck related projects right now. So obviously, guys, here's the deal. Do I like that they're really focusing on Steam Deck? I mean, I do like that they're focusing on it, but do I want that to be the totality of Half-Life 3 or what Citadel is? It's hard to say. I mean, at this point in time, obviously, guys, I was critical of Half-Life Alyx from the perspective, not so much gameplay, story. All of it was great. It was a phenomenal game. Best game I've ever played on VR. But the fact of the matter was that it was only on VR, and it felt like, obviously not everyone has a VR headset. Obviously, many people, would have them if they were sold with the Xbox Series X as well as the PS5. I think that that's something that should be happening at some point or another, where everyone is able to get a VR headset so that we could play a game like, Half-Life Alyx. Not everyone was able to play it, and so I feel like it kind of kept that fan base, even though everyone was very excited about Half-Life, and lots of us love Half-Life as a franchise. A lot of people ended up just playing other games because they don't have a VR headset. The VR headsets are very expensive still at this point. And so obviously I feel like it didn't reach its full potential as far as a player base, a player count. Lots of people who have the VR headset obviously purchased Half-Life Alyx, but if you don't have one, you probably didn't, get an opportunity to play it and see how great it was. Half-Life Alyx should have released on consoles, and I just feel that definitely should have happened, guys. Even though it was meant for VR, you still could have released it on the other consoles. We've waited years for a new Half-Life, and the fact that it only came on VR was really unfortunate. That leads us to Half-Life 3. So Citadel, or Half-Life 3, guys, we know very little at this point, but I do think that we're going to be getting an announcement here in 2022 of, Citadel or Half-Life 3, whatever that may look like. And obviously, if Steam Deck is what's going to be showcased here, I'm okay with it, but it just depends on how they do it. Is this going to be another kind of VR kind of ordeal where they're almost like testing the waters with it? I don't really like the concept of just testing the waters based on one thing like VR or Steam Deck or things of that nature. But overall, would I like to see, obviously, a Half-Life 3 or a Citadel in any shape or form? Absolutely, guys. It continues the legacy. It continues the lore, the story that is Half-Life. And we've been wanting this for so long, but I want it to be accessible for everyone, that you're able to play it on PC, you're able to play it on consoles, you're able to play it on VR if you want to. Play it anywhere you want. I think that's the most important thing here for a Half-Life title. I mean, something that's recognized as one of the greatest games in the history of gaming. I think that you need to have that, to say the least. But look, guys, this is one man's thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about Citadel, about Half-Life 3? Do you think it should only be on a specific console, only on, VR? Should it be primarily showcased around Steam Deck? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Citadel content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, all I ask, guys, is that you hit that thumbs up button. Helps out the YouTube channel in a massive way. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notified every single time we have a new video that goes up on the channel. Thank you so much for all the support, guys. As always, stay positive, just keep grinding. And as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.